Hi, this is Bob, and this is, thank goodness, the final video in the 10-minute tours accounts payable vendor setup series. And we left off on totals, and we're starting to look at insurance and compliance and custom fields. So I wanted to jump into those and go through those quickly. This might be a shorter version of the regular weekly or daily tour. So compliance is a newer part of Timberline. We use it here. Generally, we love it. We don't use all of it. But this will at least step you through it and get a basic understanding. I'll probably do a series later on compliance in general. All right, so we'll click on this insurance certificates and see what we see for this vendor. And of course, this is going to be on my other screen. And we have nothing for that one. Let me see if I can find one that I know I have data on. So I think this one we might. Yes, we do. Okay. So part of the compliance tracks insurance setup. There's actually 4 parts, I believe, to compliance. You've got insurance, you've got certified payrolls, you've got lien waivers, and you've got miscellaneous, I think it's called. So insurance is the first thing we installed, and it's been very helpful to us. Similar to the 1099 situation, the problem is you don't know whether they don't have insurance or whether you haven't asked for it or that you don't require it. So our trigger for that is that we check the require per commitment box. So we're at the vendor level now. They also have insurance by commitment. So each job here in New York, you have to have insurance that specifies that you're on a certain project, or just because they have it as a company, they won't pay you if something happens on a job. And we have to actually specify insurance that's required for that job, and we have to get policies that reflect that. So anyway, so in here we put a company name, policy number, effective date, expiration date, amount, and when we received it. General liability, auto, umbrella, and workers' comp, I believe, are all standard insurances. Pollution insurance and OCP policies, they have 2 types of insurance that you can customize what the title of those are, and that's what we use those for, is pollution and OCP. So if we have looked at those insurances, we put a little check box and require per commitment. If we require that insurance, we also check proof required. If we don't require that insurance, we check override. And so you can see in this case, we don't really require an umbrella policy for this company. They provided one to us, but we don't require it. So if this was out of date or something, it wouldn't necessarily tag it. So this is done at the vendor level. Then we do the same at a commitment level. And normally the policy numbers and all are the same. And I wrote a little report in my assistant that checks to see if the GL information is the same for both. if we get an update and we update the vendor but haven't updated the commitments, then it reports on that report. So we know that we're in sync all the time with them. So that's how the insurance portion of it works. Now there's miscellaneous compliance items, and we do not use this yet, but we'll come in here, and it's sort of the same setup. You can require a whole bunch of different items from a vendor, and that might be stuff like if you have a standard contract that you use for, say, truckers, you could have that contract required for a trucker. If you require photos of everybody in the company, you can get that. If you know, pretty much anything that you'd want on a vendor level, you would put in this compliance section, and you'd mark that you'd received it and so on, and it would track it. And depending on how you set up your system, it'll stop checks from going to this company until they actually provide you with the information. That usually gets our attention. Then create lien waivers for this vendor based on job settings. Okay, I'm going to see if I can do this. I'm going to go into job cost, set up. Jobs. And that's probably going to my other screen. No, nowhere yet. There we go. Okay, so in here, as part of all this setup that you do with jobs, there'll be one spot in here. And since we don't use this yet, I'll have to find it. Oh, job compliance. There we go. So, generate lien waiver. So in this job, you can say, for materials, I need a lien waiver. For subcontract, I need a lien waiver. I don't for equipment. I don't for truck and other. So it's going to look at that vendor and say, are they a material? Is that the type of vendor that they're set up under? If so, and this is checked, then they require a lien waiver for that vendor. So it's driven from the job. And that's what that little box means in here. And it tells you here where you can go and update compliance items through this task, Subcontractor Compliance Management. One more thing on this insurance certificate. When it says require per commitment, the reason we use that is because it doesn't check for purchase orders. It really should say required per subcontract. If you have a subcontract for a vendor, then you do want to require it per commitment. So we use this, and if they ever do sign a subcontract with us for some reason, it'll already be checked and require it. So that's why we use that. Okay, and then custom fields are fields you set up to track certain things, or we started trying to use this for W-9s. Do we have a W-9 for that vendor? So that would be a way to check for the 1099 settings, sort of. Did we get a W-9? If we did, then we should have the compliance or the 1099 information set up. These are all customizable through the common tasks, tools, file, excuse me, company settings, custom descriptions. I think it might be custom fields is where you set those up. So it gives you a way to gather information, put little check boxes in, and so on for anything you might want to track on a vendor. And that is it for AP settings. Thanks much for hanging with me. That's it for today's 10-minute tour, and we will catch you next time. Bye now.